I was about to lift the rudder print off of the table, and then I realized, well, it'd be best if I just went ahead and finished everything, like cut the window so that I can get to the bolts that are go right in here, and drill up through it for the bolts. That's all stuff I can do right now. That way I don't have to drag the print back out, double check how it goes. And once again, I'm approaching this description in these videos as if you don't have, for the person who doesn't have much experience in any kind of machining or woodworking or something like that. So I measured the width of the bow on the rudder here. And now that shows me where the edge is on the inside, behind this here gusset. So now I can go ahead and make some marks along here, connect some of these lines, and I'll do the same thing up here. Why did it shut off? Oh. Anyways, do the same thing up here, 730 thousandths. I'm a machinist, so everything I measure is in thousandths of an inch for some reason. Well, because I'm a machinist, and that's just habit. So, alright, we got some straight edges. That's good enough. That should be about the back of the upright there, the main beam. And then we'll go right here. Whoop. And then we're going to use a brad point, and we're going to go ahead and set it so that it's right in the right at that inside the line on both directions. Can you see it? Yeah, right inside the line in both directions. And then we'll do a relative circle around it. It doesn't have to be perfect. And just trying not to drill into either of these members, but yet get as close as we can. And now let's see how deep this is. We could make it a little bit bigger or smaller. Now, the print shows that's 730 thousandths also. And that's diagonally. So, am I in blocking the view? So, just set a mark here. There. These don't have to be perfect, obviously. And we'll do the same thing at each of these corners. Now, one thing the print shows is the bolt going down. Now let's just go diagonally. So we got 780 thousandths. And no, that's with the gap. Okay. So we have 670 and 3 inches 360. Okay, so let's go 680, I said, right? Alright, so, well, we don't need to know that one. We've already got that hole drilled, or that circled. So let's go up here to 3 inches 410. Oh, no, put that in there again. I keep leaving the gap between the two in there. Well, no, I guess I didn't. 3 inches 380. So at 3 inches 380 right there. And we're just going to eyeball this. Make it as square as we can. That looks relatively square right there. same thing. Set this here. And we're just going to eyeball the center of these. Yeah, this one here, we might stretch this one out just a bit because you don't want to run one hole in directly into another one. Otherwise the drill will slide off and it'll get all ratty. So we've got the 4 corners circled, and we'll drill them out, and then we'll use the oscillating saw to connect them all. It should be nice, clean, rounded holes. And one thing about this that I don't believe works is at least this inside bolt, you're not going to go down through with this inside bolt. It's just not going to, you're not going to be able to work it in there. It has to go up through. And you might as well just do both bolts that way. On mine, my other FP202, I have washer and the nut glued in place, and with T88, and they stay pretty good. When you buy a brad bit set or any drill set, don't buy cheap. Look at this wobble. And when you break through, you want to be careful when you break through because there's nothing behind it. You don't want it to be too ratty, and you don't want to go through and hit the other side. So don't be pushing real hard, and maybe have your hand under it to slow it down, give you more control. And by now y'all should know how much I appreciate my oscillating saw. Okay. Loud noise. So I'll sand the edges just lightly, get rid of the little burrs and that, and on the inside as well as on this top side. And then I'm going to take just a little bit, mix just a tiny bit of T88 and cover all of these end grains, because that's where you're going to get all your moisture in. Now I'm going to just measure the print, and from the very corner to the center line of bolt, and that's about right there. So 1 inch 401 thousandths, or 410 thousandths. I don't like these calipers. I like the same size digits all the way across. Anyways, so right about, oh, that's from down at the bottom, right? You're down at the bottom is what I measured. So go ahead and measure that up. And then I'm going to lay a bolt. I'll make a straight line up relative to this surface and lay a bolt on there and make sure I got plenty of clearance. So here you got a bit of an issue. You got 1 inch 350 thousandths, a little bit less than 1 inch 350 thousandths. It's a little smaller than that. And but you go to the piece that fits it over there, the rudder, and this here drawing, that's let's try to go center to center, and that's 1 inch 720 thousandths, 125, inch 725. So big difference there. So I suppose either place, this one will give you more torque and more strength in rotating this rudder, whereas the other one being right about there, it's not a big difference, but you know, it's enough to, well, you got to choose which dimension you want, and then make that one the same too. So half of this distance to the center of this is 687, but always measure from both sides just to make sure. And yeah, comes out real good, 687. So now this here, of course, it's getting narrower as it goes up, so you got to do these separate. And this here is 1 inch 3/10, so that would be 655 thousandths. That's only about 30 thousandths less. So let's go to 655 thousandths. And we don't have to have it perfect, but so we'll measure from this side. And we'll measure from this side to make sure, yep, comes out the same distance. Okay. So now we know where we're going to drill our holes. Now we need a drill jig, and I believe mine is out in the truck. So I'll be right back. Now, just to make sure you get it right on the center where you want it, I like to use a center punch. Now, I don't know if you can do this. You probably can't do this with white pine, northern white pine, or commercial white ash, or with other than a pretty tough wood like commercial white ash. So next thing I do is get my bit. Now, this is going to be difficult to do because typically this will be somewhere, well, you can't see up there, where I can clamp this across the piece, and I can stick my drill through it, put the point in the center, and then I can clamp this tightly. I can probably clamp it right through there. I've got it clamped on through the cutout with one clamp. It's better to have two clamps, and we'll see how it stays on there. And it's not critical if it's off slightly, but this keeps you from going, too off center, too off perpendicular. So you slide the drill into the guide very carefully, so you're not going to move the guide at all. And then once it starts drilling, it'll kind of find its own. And I'm going to be hitting the clamp here a little bit. Now there you go, crappy bit again. And wrong drill. Should have gotten one of my drills that's a driver. I need my drill bit or my half-inch drills that go to 2,500 RPM. But we'll check that hole now. See how straight that looks like it's coming through in there. And as close as you can tell, that looks pretty straight, pretty centered. We'll do the same thing up here in the top one. I really couldn't get the clamp to clamp very well and hold it straight, so here's the other way you can do it. I'm wiggling it around to feel how this here drill guide is feeling the flattest, and then just squeezing it with my fingers. Of course, this would be a lot better if I had decent brad drills. Look at how wobbly that is. Trying not to break through the far side. Trying to barely. I think it's breaking through. There we go. Nice gentle breakthrough. Of course, the brad bit has little tangs on the outer portion of it so that it cuts the outside of the circle first. So I might as well finish this all up and get my washer and nut glued on the inside. And I don't have the exact right blank the bolt to do that, so I'm gonna just stack up some washers under the head of it. So what we'll do is, you can only push it through part way, and then we'll hang this large washer. I'm not sure, maybe the large, I always like using large diameter washers whenever I'm going to be putting a bit of pressure on it. So let's see. No, okay, so I'm going to flatten one side of that washer just slightly. That should be enough. I'm going to go ahead and leave the burr on it, so it can, on this side here, so I can let it dig into the wood a little bit. So, and all right, the little gussets here on the corners is breaking into it also, so I'll have to relieve it. Up this way and on this corner too. And I believe that should get it. There's a little bit of wood splinter there. There we go. Get that out of there. And I'll vacuum that all out once I'm done here. And notice I'm not putting glue on this and then sticking it in here. Just like everything else, you do a dry fit first. And make sure you're going to get it in there. It's going to fit and sit flat. Once I know it's going to sit flat in there, then I'll put glue and I get it all dry fitted. Then I'll go ahead and put the glue on it just the way I want it and get it set down in there. So I scuff up the nut and the washer with a little bit of sandpaper. So I've mixed up a tiny little dab of glue, and I'm going to put it on the wood on the inside as thin as I possibly can, because I really don't want it running down onto the threads of this bolt, because I'll be pulling the bolt out, of course. And so I'm trying to get it real thin just on the face of the wood there. And oh, got a little bit of a burr on the top one. And it's going on pretty good there. Thought it'd be a little more difficult to get it up in there, but it's not too bad. So we'll start with the bottom one, since it's kind of fitted in there. And this here's just the nut side, so I'm going to try to keep it a little bit back from the hole if I can. It's not going to be easy. Alright, and the face side, I can go ahead and cover most of that. I didn't bother putting on any latex gloves because it's going to be hard enough hanging onto this as it is. Nope, get that away from that hole. Well, geez, keep on getting a blob right next to the hole. But should be able to back the screw off, even if I get a little T88 on it. Should be able to back it off without breaking this loose. And we're not really, I think I got enough washers under the head of the bolt that we don't even have to run it up onto the up onto the locking part of the nut. Oop. Here we go. That was fairly easy. the screw back. Oh boy, that's slippery. Alright. Alright, got another trick here. Just set it in a wrench. And of course the clamp's in the way. Let's go the other direction. Or, geez, yeah. Alright. I'll still need to probably get my finger in there to hold it. Now I can't see nothing. Let's see if I can just do it by feel. You get good at doing stuff like this from working on jet engines. When you have to reach clear up around a engine bay with nothing but feel. There we go. That was too easy. With nothing but feel. And try to change something like a fuel flow sensor, or your arms are digging into the ribs on the sheet metal, and all you got is the feel of your fingers, and then you're using stubby wrenches, and there you have it. They're both in there, snugged down, and hopefully not too much glue gets on the threads that it breaks the nut loose and defeats the purpose of what we just did. But I took a lot of time, I know, doing this, but there's some little details that people ask a lot of questions about, so I thought I'd go ahead and do this whole thing long-winded.